says that instead of paying off that debt, instead of paying actual money, you can give the bank one of these magic promissory notes. And he claims that they have to accept this payment and they can't argue that it's not legitimate. He says...
So one of my primary aims of teaching people how to use promissory notes is that we are calling out the fraud. That's what we're doing. We're calling out the fraud that cash is promissory notes and promissory notes are cash. That is my aim. And for someone to say things like legitimate money and real money shows they don't understand that. And often someone thinks they're criticizing me when they've just come to the conclusion. I wanted to get them to that conclusion. That promissory notes are just cash and cash is trash. That is the conclusion I want people to come to. And I've had this group of trolls really attack me. They've come to that conclusion and think they're disagreeing with me. But that is what I wanted. That's the conclusion I want you to get to. That this is just a promissory note. This is just a promissory note. They are both broken promises. That's what I'm saying. This is a broken promise. It's just a note with a promise on it. And you can't call this legitimate money. No, it's not. If you've deceived if you think that. This is just a note with a promise on it. This is not money. This is not money. This is just a note with a promise on it. This is just a note with a promise on it. This is not money. A £5 note, a £10 note, 20 or 50 is not money. It's just a note that promises money. And it's a broken promise. It says right here, it says, I promise to pay the bearer on demand the sum of £5. That is a broken promise. How will that promise be fulfilled? These people who say this is legitimate money or real money, answer that question. How will that promise be fulfilled? I've had several answers. Oh, that's on there so that if it's a bit crumpled and a bit old, you can bring it to the bank and they'll give you a new one. That fulfills the promise. Fine. If that is the system, then these promissory notes that we write, I'll print you a nice brand new one. Bring it in to me and I'll bring you a nice new one. These are also cash. Promissory notes are cash and cash is promissory notes. This is cash. It is an authentic promissory note and it has a promise on it. The Bills of Exchange Act says cash needs to have these three things. That says a promise, a signature, and it needs to be delivered. And the promise is, I irrevocably and unconditionally promise to pay the bearer on demand the sum of, and you put it in a pound sign in numbers and in words, pounds sterling. Say £29,000 sterling. Now that is a promise. How will that promise be fulfilled? Well, it depends how the Bank of England fulfill their promise, because it says here, this promise you make is in the same manner and form as would be the Bank of England at the time of payment. So however the Bank of England honour that promise on there, however it is, we are promising we will honour this promise in the same way. And that's important. And the enclosed £5 note accompanies this promissory note to affirm its equivalence to a lawful instrument of payment, serving as full and final satisfaction of any outstanding obligations in accordance with the Bills of Exchange Act 1882. Because that Bills of Exchange Act has not been repealed. It's been amended, sure, but they've not amended it so much that the promissory note part is not... that is the system that we're still using. This note is issued in compliance with the Bills of Exchange Act, and it constitutes an irrevocable and unconditional promise to pay. You sign it, it has to have a signature, and we wrap a £5 note around the bottom corner. Now, the conclusion that I'm trying to get people to come to is that these are it's just a bit of paper with a promise on it. We put nice hologram stickers on it, we make it look all authentic. It is not money. This is not money. This is not money. This is a note that promises money. It promises £5 of sterling silver. That's what this note promises. And in stage one of the monetary cycle, it's an honest system. You can swap this for £5 of monetary precious metal. That is honest. That's a sound monetary system. Then they go to stage two, suspend convertibility. So now you can't swap this, and we're in that at the moment. You can't swap this for £5 of sterling silver. That is dishonest. And I'm calling out the fraud. So when you watch this video of this guy now, who's saying that Dave he doesn't understand the difference between legitimate money and he's making a mockery of my promissory notes. He doesn't understand. They are both cash. Cash is trash. They are both notes with promises on them.
Dave says that instead of paying off that debt, instead of paying actual money, you can give the bank one of these magic promissory notes. And he claims that they have to accept this payment and they can't argue that it's not legitimate. He says that you won't ever have to pay the bank back, not ever, if you follow his advice. And Dave swears that anyone with the knowledge can act on it, and he just happens to be one of the world's leading experts, which means, of course, that his promissory notes are the best. You might even refer to them as the gold standard of promissory notes. They are so legitimate that no bank would ever be able to refuse this novel form of payment. And wouldn't you be thrilled to learn that Dave can set you up with these promissory notes for a modest fee? That's the deal. You give him cash and he gives you an IOU. Now, this is apparently completely legal, and Dave has an authority on this matter. It's a 1969 judgment by Lord Denning, who said,
"A bill of exchange or a promissory note is to be treated as cash. It is to be honored unless there is a good reason to the contrary."
As you might guess,